Yo, what's up everybody? This is Damron with Trash Ass Gamers, bringing you another Elder Scrolls Online Veteran Dungeon Guide. This is for Spindleclutch II. Spindleclutch II is found in Glenumbra, which is obviously part of the Daggerfall Covenant. Pretty cool dungeon. It's not too bad difficulty-wise. There are a few bosses that have a few mechanics that can trip a few people up, but hopefully this guide will help you if you're having any difficulty to get through this dungeon and call it history. So for all these dungeons, if you haven't seen any of these playthroughs before, I will keep them complete. I'll fast forward through the ads to make it a little bit quicker, but I will keep these dungeon playthroughs complete so you know exactly where I am and how I got there. I'll basically be focusing mainly on the boss mechanics, and also anything throughout the dungeon that I think is important I'll also point out as well. So let's get cleaning up the first few ads in this dungeon and we'll meet up at the first boss, which is actually right here. Not too far, so Mad Mortine. Mad Mortine has a few little enemies, Blood Fiend, basically zombies with him that will certainly all light attack you. Just stack them all up. This is not a hard fight at all. He has, not too much health. Just make sure your tank's here, taunting the main enemy, and burn down all those Blood Fiends as fast as possible to make this fight even easier. So as long as the tank holds aggro, you really won't have to worry about his conical kind of slash attack that he'll do with his hands, and other than that he'll just light heavy attack and you'll likely burn him down really before he causes you all any trouble. So let's get moving after he's down.
Over there, it's from you.
Sularim, I thought you were dead. They came at night, surround us.
Who did this? Where's Anna?
I don't know.
So this dungeon does have a tendency to make us watch people walk around, but nonetheless, Blood Spawn will eventually spawn in, who's a large gargoyle-like enemy who really isn't going to pose you too much threat. He will do a light and heavy attack that if you just take it, it will knock you down as the tank, so keep that in mind. His AoE isn't a burst AoE, it is a continuous AoE for a few seconds. Once that AoE reaches its maximum capacity, he will actually start slamming the ground with his fists, and you will take continuous damage while you're in that. And that's something that can definitely kill you, so move out of that. And other than that, he's pretty weak, so if you avoid those two attacks, just kind of maintain your DPS, you'll burn him down no problem.
You think they know what they're dealing with?
Yes, Praxin. The Whisperer is gone. No, you can't. I was going to rescue. That voice. It's over, Praxin. You can rest now.
Boss, I don't think he's listening.
Alright, so after we watch these guys talk again, we're going to be fighting our next boss, which he can give people some trouble. Praxin will kind of stand back there, and you won't actually be able to damage him until you kill about 4 waves of ads. And the first wave will just be some spider swarms that really don't have too much health. You're not going to have to really worry about these, just burn them down. And then the next set of ads will feature a swarm mother. So she's going to be a larger phantom-like spider enemy. She certainly can do some heavy attacks, and she'll also shoot some poison from her mouth that creates a small little AoE on the ground. So you're going to want to stay out of that. But again, these are really not actual bosses. These are very small mini phantom bosses that you have to just take out in order to advance and to fight Praxin himself. So the next set of ads are going to spawn in, which are Big Ravu. These are some Widowmaker, Healer, Nightmare type enemies that will just really kind of stand around and hit you with their sword and board, their mage attacks. These are all humanoid type enemies that all have kind of separate little attacks. Really, this is just kind of another group of ads that you need to wipe up prior to moving on to the final portion of the phantom ads that you need to kill. And this one will spawn a Daedra spider enemy, and this one is certainly has some attacks that you need to be aware of, and it's a spit attack that she'll do. She'll launch that spit as soon as she spawns at somebody. This can certainly cause a lot of damage, so make sure you heal up prior to her spawning so you don't get one-shotted by the spider Daedra herself. And then once you finally clear up all these ads, you're going to fight Praxin finally. And there's one real main attack that you need to be aware of that he will do. And what he'll do is he will basically spawn a red circle around one of the players, and this is going to be a random player, and that red circle will move around the map on its own. You have no control over where that circle goes, and the player that is inside the circle needs to stay inside it. If he touches the walls of the circle, he will die. And then the same thing goes for every other player. You need to be aware of where that circle is going, because if you hit the outside of it, it will also kill you. So that's really the main mechanic of Praxin that you need to, be aware of. He will fire at just a light attack fireball at you that doesn't really cause too much damage. You don't really need to worry too much about that. A lot of people actually lose their no death runs from that red circle because they're unaware that they need to stay inside of it. So let's clean up the next set of ads, and we'll meet you at the next boss. Alright, so next up is the Flesh Atronach boss. This is essentially 3 Atronauchs that have increased health. They're not going to really do any attacks that really you need to worry about. They're going to do some heavy and light attacks. As long as the tank holds aggro, you're not really going to have to worry about that. The only thing that you really need to make sure you do is that you need to kill all of them relatively at the same time. Now, their health is loosely linked in the sense that when you damage one, you will inherently damage another. But the problem is, if you actually kill one way before you kill the other 2, you could actually have another Flesh Atronach spawn into the fight. So you're going to want to try to kill them all relatively at the same time, as you see us do there, to really minimize that fight from getting prolonged. So let's move on. Let's blast through the next set of ads, and we'll see you in just a minute. Alright, so this is a pretty cool boss up here, Urvan. Urvan Veleth. He does have a few ads that spawn in with him in the beginning of the fight, really some phantom-like sword enemies and 2 bow enemies in the back. Go ahead and clean them up and get them off the board. They won't respawn during the fight, so let's go ahead and clean them up first and foremost. And a few attacks that he'll do. One, he'll drop this totem-like thing, which creates a burning AoE around it. You can't really get rid of that. It will just dissipate over time. But if you stand in that, obviously that's going to cause damage. So let's avoid that. And then the second thing he'll do is what you see here. He'll go underground, and it'll create this kind of pool of blood AoE while he's underground. You can't hurt him, and that AoE will chase a random player. And if you stand in that, it will certainly kill you very, very, very quickly. So you really just kind of need to stay on the move. As long as you keep moving around, you're not going to really have any problems avoiding that. Other than that, the tank, hold aggro as always, and hold on to that light and heavy attack. The heavy attack can definitely kill you as a DPS player if he lands a fully charged heavy attack on you. So if for some reason the tanks use aggro for a moment, you see him charging that up, be sure to roll dodge out of it. And the most likely time that could happen is when he pops out of the ground after his underground phase.
Where are you? Attempts like this.
So we're moving on to the final boss of the game. This is Vorenor Winterbourne, who is a vampire-like enemy. Now, there's no scroll in this area, and what is called hard mode is by not killing these guys that are tied up to these crosses, like they're getting crucified. And what would happen is he will suck their life in order to get his life back and make himself stronger throughout the fight. And if you kill them, he will not be able to do that. So hard mode is by taking him out without killing the guys that are up on the crosses. So if you don't kill them, obviously he will get stronger throughout the fight, as you can see here with that red line, and he'll suck their life, and he will heal as well as getting a little bit stronger. Now, we pull him up near the door, and the reason you want to do that is because you don't want to accidentally kill one of those guys on the crosses. Now, you certainly can just stay down there but you run the risk of accidentally killing one. And again, we're doing hard mode, so we definitely don't want that to happen. And another attack that he'll do is he'll place an AO on the ground, which you see actually right up there near the door. Be sure you stand out of that. It's a small AoE, it'll dissipate over time that you don't really need to worry too much about. And another attack he'll do is he'll kind of do this teleport strike, and he will actually hit every enemy, I'm sorry, all allies, you and all your teammates. He will hit all of you, and there's not really anything you can do to block it. You can roll dodge that attack, but he will, teleport and hit everybody. So again, you're going to see him draining life force from people on the Crucible. You can see that red line tether there, and that's actually what he's doing. So we're staying up here to avoid killing them, to make sure we get hard mode done. His light and heavy attacks aren't really anything the tank needs to worry about. They don't really cause that much damage. And the teleport attack doesn't really cause that much damage either, as long as the tank regains aggro immediately after. So that's it, really. Not too bad of a dungeon, pretty easy. Not really too hard mechanics. If you kind of understand what's going on, you should have no trouble with this dungeon. So let's check out the monster set that drops in Spindleclutch II. Alright, so the monster set that comes out of here is the Blood Spawn set. It's going to give you additional stamina recovery, and when you take damage, you have a 6% chance to generate 14 ultimate, increase physical and spell resistance for 6 seconds by 6,000. Not too bad. It's not really a set that's used often, but if this guide helps you guys out, feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.